personal life. So, welcome again. Does everybody have a packet? If you don't, raise your hand. I've got some extras. Okay. We get somebody to get two back there and a couple up here. That's okay. Thanks. All right. So, I should have followed my script and I didn't. Okay, I'm going to go back to it. Good morning and welcome to the Columbus Regional Logistics Council. Elevate your voice. Mastering emotional intelligence and for supply chain and logistics. It's not limited to just that though, right, Eric?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. So I'm going to bring up our one of our sponsors from Schneider Downs, Carl. He's going to come up and say a few words, and then we'll get moving along.
That's why
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thanks to Miranda for hosting us at this wonderful venue. So thank you, Miranda. I think I was asking on what the registrations were like for this morning, this afternoon. I was originally thinking that the afternoon might be a little bit bigger, given that maybe you'll have a few more beer drinkers in the afternoon. But I think we have the coffee drinkers here this morning. Is there coffee beer here, by the way?
I mean, what happens on the island?
But very strategic. I'll be sure to pick up probably some beer on my way out of here this morning for later this evening. But no, welcome. Hey, thanks again for having us. I'm particularly excited about today's conversation on emotional intelligence, just because, you know, in my profession, as this may come as a surprise, CPAs and accountants aren't busting at the seams with emotional intelligence, right? We like math, we like rules, right? We sometimes struggle with making eye contact, which are a few stereotypes that I think my profession has an uphill battle always against. But quite frankly, though, that's why I think EQ is so important, because in my profession, advising businesses and transportation companies and business and tax advisory matters is really what we do, and we find pride in it. So, and that, quite frankly, it's a foundational competency that at Schneider Downs we coach, develop, and evaluate our people on emotional intelligence, in addition to the technical stuff. So, but in today's session, you will all gain practical skills and strategies to elevate your roles within your organizations and unlock secrets to be a more effective communicator, enabling you to navigate challenges and forge stronger connections with colleagues, clients, and stakeholders. We've seen some great conversations, as Christine mentioned, that transpired from previous supply chain and logistics events, and I'm excited to carry on the conversation in today's event. So before I pass the mic off to Abby, I'd be remiss without providing a little bit of background about my firm, for those perhaps that are attending their first CRLC event, new to the organization, or even those that are regulars, like myself. I'm a firm believer in the rule of 7, where it takes 7 times to hear something before you begin to absorb it. Schneider Downs is not a racetrack. We're a top 60 public accounting firm and do consulting, tax advisory within the United States, and have offices in Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Washington, D.C. So we employ over 500 personnel and over 60 plus shareholders and partners, and have amassed this growth organically over a 65-year history, which is something, you know, our firm and our partners are very proud of. At Schneider Downs, our transportation advisory group is made up of accounting, tax, technology, and business management consulting professionals who each combine their individual expertise on a bi-monthly basis when we meet to really strategize over issues and challenges facing the industry so we can be more proactive, speaking to our clients about the issues and challenges that they face. In those companies that we provide advice to could be in the trucking, you know, transportation, distribution, freight brokerage, and warehousing space. So as a business advisor, you know, we continue to work to find innovative ways really to offer solutions to help our clients reach their strategic and financial goals. So certainly if anyone has any questions, feel free to connect with me. I'll be around here this morning. I actually won't be around here this afternoon, unfortunately. But And without further ado, I'd like to welcome up Abby for me.
That is definitely not me, but she's very pretty.
That's funny.
So thank you. Carl, I also appreciate you clearing up that you're not a racetrack, because every time the guys were like, we have to call Carl from Schneider Downs, I'm like, you guys are going to the track again. So awkward. Christine, thank you so much for putting this together. I know it's something that's important to all of us. Appreciate everyone coming in this room. It's fun to see so many familiar faces. Ease, hopefully everyone knows the name by now. We do a lot of the same things that the rest of you in this room do. We like to move things from point A to point B and do it really well. EQ is super important to us, more important than the skill set that people come in with, really, right? So when we're looking to hire, emotional intelligence is the thing that's really hard to teach. So I'm excited to be here to learn more about that today. The skill sets and how to truck from point A to point B, we can teach those things to people. It's hard to teach how to be nice to someone and how to treat someone with kindness and respect and how to really understand where someone's coming from, when a lot of times in our industry we get met with abrasiveness, upset drivers, customers who their freight's going to be late, they don't understand why, they don't understand the transportation industry. So I think this is a really important session for our industry specifically, so thank you for putting it together. I get the honor of introducing Miranda, all of our favorite hostess, and there's a reason that we keep coming back here. It is because we like beer, so I'm also disappointed that we don't have like beer mimosas this morning or something fun.
I'm not the events coordinator.
I did just see coffee came in though, so for all of us who are waiting for coffee, it is now at that back table, which is super exciting. Miranda has become a friend of mine. I'm really excited to be here and to listen to her speak and our speaker this morning. So Miranda is I have to read it because she just got a well-deserved promotion, is now the Director of Supply Chain and Planning here at BrewDog. And thank you for having us, Miranda.
A friend.
So matchy.
A friend. She listed me as a friend. I'm in. I'm in.
We're Facebook friends, I can try.
I've arrived. Well, first of all, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome. If you've met me once, if you've seen horrible video footage that the chamber has put up, if you've heard my name, you know that I have really big energy. So I'm not going to apologize for that, so you're welcome for that. But could not be more excited to have you at the place that I've been lucky enough to call home for 5 years now. Celebrating 5 years in August, so very excited to be here. Feels like 15 in an industry that is growing so rapidly for us here. So, welcome again to the Columbus Region Logistics Council. Elevate your voice, mastering emotional intelligence for supply chain and logistics. Nailed it. Had it highlighted in my book. How did we get here? Why are we all in this room? How did this happen? Christine talked about it a bit. So back in March, sidebar, I also sit on the advisory board for the CRLC, so it was a full circle moment for us. And so back in March, CRLC, we hosted Women in Logistics and Supply Chain, this event called Share Your Voice. And we did exactly that. The energy in that room, we packed a room in Ohio, Dominican. It was standing room only. It was fantastic. It wasn't as big as this, okay, let's be honest. But it was fantastic. So that energy really fed me. It fed the rest of our team. We ran through that feedback, and the common denominator on there, as I talked through points, the common denominator that people fed back was emotional intelligence. Their interest, what was it, how can it help me? So that's really how we came up with this. So during that keynote, I talked about things like WTF moments. That's not a secret lingo, it means exactly what it means. Aggressive perception, AKA, how do I be aggressive in business to get good results without being perceived just as a bitch? How do we break into leadership And how do we sustain work-life balance, or for the first time really get work-life balance, right? So those were some of those key points that I talked about in my keynote, and then we broke off and talked about. So the common denominator, again, in all of those was, what are you talking about with emotional intelligence, and how does that apply? So it's really exciting that we were able to have that, listen, hear that, and then implement that in this workshop. Every single day in personal and professional life, EQ is what keeps me from causing WTF moments instead of witnessing them. Facts. It keeps me able to balance this big energy that's in this girl, really big energy in this aggression, instead of just coming across as a B and not having my teams listen, right? And, you know, it really balances all of the above. It also guides me in conversations with my husband so that I can actually get him to do the dishes and not throw a fit. And with my son, who is 5, you know, grace and patience are not two natural characteristics of mine. I work really hard, but that emotional intelligence to be able to be the calm in the storm, not only here, but for my 5-year-old as well. So all of those things, I could get on a soapbox forever, but Eric is the professional in this, so we'll let him do that. But just understanding your GPS is an absolute game changer. So really couldn't be more excited to be sitting in the room with all of you, knowing that this will be and can be a game changer for you as well. I will be here all day. This is where I live from 9 to 5. I'll be eating lunch in the tap room as well. So feel free to stop by my way through any questions that you have about BrewDog too. But without further ado, I would like to introduce Eric Pennington, our star of the day. They did not leave me a script up here like they promised me to, which is okay, because honestly I would probably butcher it. So you can tell it in a very elegant way versus the unpolished gym way that I would say it. So really excited to have Eric here today. Everyone share a round of applause for Eric Pennington.
Down,
Good morning.
up.
Morning. With all of that, you probably want to know a little more about me. And since we're going to be together, I'm going to kind of do a drip campaign with you on that. Spirit of EQ is the company that I am blessed to be the managing partner of. And our mission is to move people to this place of breakthrough where emotional intelligence is not just 2 words, but it's kind of like their lifestyle. It's what they do every single day. So I want to do some real housekeeping stuff to kind of get you prepared here. Number 1, and most important for me, I have Sarah Russell to my right, who is with Spirit of EQ. She is new to Spirit of EQ, and I told her this would be a good way to find out whether or not you want to stay or not. So, with that, thank you, Sarah, for being here. Also, from a sort of a housekeeping perspective, we do have a drawing for you today. We're going to be giving away a free assessment and debrief of our most deepest dive EQ report. We call it the SAY. It's like a $300 value, so with that, it motivates you. I would like you, if you would, if you have a business card, you can use that, or if you want to write it on a slip of paper, if there's Post-it notes, whatever you need. Sarah's going to come around with this, because you know, at the end, you know how the drill goes, you mix it around, and then you pull it out and say, and then you're the winner, okay? So she'll be coming around, so you'll notice that. The other part is, I move around a lot. I mean, just standing here for this like 2 minutes is really a challenge for me. So do not be freaked if I'm kind of here and kind of there. Hopefully you'll always hear my voice. You'll have a screen. We'll be able to move through this in a way that's going to be good for you. But I want to start in this regard. It's really, really important that I acknowledge that we all are very diverse here. And I'm speaking about from a neuro perspective, right? You may be more leaning toward the idea of logic. The gentleman from Schneider Downs, is it Joel? Carl. Boy, I was really close. So as Carl was saying, you know, if you're in the finance world, things are very logical. It's very point, that kind of thing. I operate from more the emotional center of my brain. It's just who I am. And maybe it makes sense to you that I would be because of what we're doing today. I'm here to say, regardless of where you may land in your leaning, it's okay. I haven't been brought here today to convince you to stop being logical. Actually, I've been brought here today to help you to understand that if you engage with both your logic, sort of that prefrontal, the executive function of your brain, and the emotional center of the brain, and move toward this idea that they work together, that's high emotional intelligence. And I want that for you. But I also want to acknowledge that, you know, when people start talking about emotions, oh gosh, does that mean we need tissues? And am I going to have to tell about when I was 5 years old and the puppy? No, that's not what we mean. And I want to get into this idea about defining what are emotions. Because I think there needs to be a little bit of science before we dig into all this. How are we going to master emotional intelligence? The last thing within this is that we believe in psychologically safe environments. So today, I'm hoping you're going to be up for some interaction, right? But if there's something that's like, no, I really don't want to go there, you know what you can do? Hey, La, I'm going to pass on this one. Hopefully, La and the rest of you will go, okay, no problem. But please, I hope that you're not coming here today going, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to listen, and I'm not going to talk because everybody, we've got to kind of take the collective exhale here. It's okay. Believe it or not, I don't give tests at the end of my talks. There's no pop quizzes. You don't have to fill out every single thing in your workbook because the object is that you're going to learn today. And even more important, you're not only going to just learn today, but you're going to take it with you to your homes, to your workplaces. See, I'm one of these kind of guys who believes that if in this room we birth some change, out there on those roads and the freeways and the cities, it's like a wave. I'm a crazy person in that regard, but I believe it. So, with that, I'm looking at you, Christine, because I need a clicker, and I'm not seeing the clicker. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Aaliyah, I love it, and I remembered your name, Aaliyah. Let's kind of level set a little bit. Am I going right?
Down.
Okay. There we go. So this idea of elevate your voice, that's really important, isn't it? It's really important whether or not your voice has always been listened to. I think it's also important if your voice seems to be silent and not heard. Emotional intelligence will help you, regardless of where you are at, in doing that, right? But we got to talk about emotions. So, if I asked you, what are emotions? Some of you would say, well, there's those things, I get tightness in my stomach and I start to sweat. Somebody might say, well, you know, emotions are, you know, that thing my dad always told me that don't cry, all those kind of things. But I'm here today to tell you, from a scientific standpoint, emotions are chemicals in your brain. That's what they are. They just happen to be communicators. Think of it this way. A message from you to you. And all of us every single day encounter various problems and opportunities, and all of those are catalysts to emotions. And I'm going to do a fun little test with you, right? I know I told you we were going to be testing. Metaphor, right? So here's the test. I'm going to tell you about an event that happened, I believe it was this morning, might have been last night. And then I want you to keep a little mental log in your head. What did you feel when I announced this? Air traffic in Chicago O'Hare was stopped because a tornado touched down. Okay. Can I pick on you?
Sure.
What did you think when I said that?
I thought about
Okay. What did you feel?
anxiety.
Anxiety. Cool. May I go here? May I pick on you? What did you think? No, you're kind of neutral about it?
Well, I recall when I worked on emergency response for tornadoes, so I reflected on that with the current situation. I didn't feel anything about it, more about what happened.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give you another one. Donald Trump. Okay, there, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. Just another the name.
Volunteered.
Okay, and guys, if you feel like I am picking on you and you feel, just tell me, I'm gonna pass. It's cool. So, may I pick on you?
Sure.
What do you think? What did you feel?
Oh man, here we go.
Okay. So if you could describe an emotion or two that you felt.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Okay. Anybody angry? Anybody disgusted? You felt it, didn't you?
Yes,
Just by the utterance of the name?
yes. It makes
What?
me furious.
Makes you furious.
Yes.
Wow.
He hurts a lot of people.
All right. Now, what are you going to do with that feeling? I'm saying that rhetorically. I'm not picking on you.
No, it's okay. I have to suppress it because it's my personal feeling. And I know that because we live in America, everybody has their own feelings. And that's why we live here. I mean, I live here because if the person next to me loves him, then, and I do have a really best friend, a good friend that does, just loves the ground he walks on. And it's just a topic we don't talk about. But I love that she has an opinion, as long as it's her opinion and not advised or something from somebody else. That's what I respect the most.
Thank you. That's very emotionally intelligent of you. So whether I mention the name of a human being, whether I mention about a news event, whether what have you, all of those things are coming at us. And I haven't even gone to the place of what happens when you get the call from your husband, your wife, your partner that says, did you remember? Did you take care of? Or maybe it gets even deeper. When your teenage daughter tells you, I hate you. This is real stuff.
That's
Right? Now you may say, I don't like feeling anger. I don't like feeling sad. It's okay. Because your emotions aren't here to pull the rug out from underneath you. They're not here to make you feel less than. They're here to help you. They really want to help you. See, in America, we've done this thing with emotions and we've segregated them. There's the good ones and the bad ones, the positive ones and the negative ones. Not to mention the influences of our parents, coaches, teachers, those core beliefs that we developed over time. And when that happens, you can begin to misunderstand that. And it's kind of like you're walking half the journey. You're kind of got some extra cement in your shoes. Because you're going to encounter people in your workplace who don't know about what your dad told you 20 years ago. They're not going to understand that. And in many respects, it's really not their job to understand it. It's our job. We're responsible for us, our emotions, and how we manage them. So today, as we move forward, we got to go now to what is emotional intelligence. And I'm going to play a video for you here in a minute. In your notebooks or your workbooks, you can follow along a bit. And I'll try to keep up with you. But, you know, I'm one of these, I feel the vibe in the room, you know. And when I come into a room and I can sense that there's people who are engaged, I can tend to be fair to you in that regard. On page 3, I believe, actually, if you go to page 2, these are some things you can consider that we have put in your workbook as far as a goal that you may have, what you want to get out of this session. And certainly, you know, we want this idea of elevating your voice to be central. But just some things that are suggested. Page 3, there's some notes that you can take as we start to explore what it is and why it matters. But there's a funny little video I want you to take a look at.
So what is it Q for you? In one word.
You love birds.
One word. One word. One word. Yeah.
Okay. I have one word.
So that was from a conference in Dubai where they put those people on the spot to describe what emotional intelligence is in one word, and obviously they fumbled miserably. And I'm not going to ask you to do that, but I'm going to ask that, and Sarah, if you could grab one of the mics for me, we'll go around. I'm going to ask you, what is emotional intelligence? Let's kind of get your thoughts around that. And if you'd like, you could write some notes in your workbook as to what you think it might be. And then we'll kind of unwrap it based on the work that we do. So who would like to volunteer as we have a mic traveling around? What is emotional intelligence?
I'm supposed to put only one word for it?
No, thank you, Lonnie. I am not, you know what, they introduced me as Eric Pennington. They should have had Eric Pennington, your friend. Right? I am your friend. I would not make you do what the folks in Dubai had to do. So who would like to give it a shot?
I think it's an awareness of how you show up to the world and how others show up to the world, and understanding that a lot of it has little to do with everybody else and everything to do with you, kind of how you're perceiving the world and the way you show up to it.
Okay, all right. Who else? Full thoughts and ideas. Over here.
Yeah, I think it's really how I would channel my feelings, current feelings or whatever, and how I communicate effectively with everyone.
Okay, all right. How about one more person? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think it's the ability to recognize and understand your emotions and then control them.
Okay, wonderful. This is our definition. It's being smarter with your feelings. You remember what I said earlier about the idea of getting your executive function, the logic, to interact with the emotions? That's what this is. Now, wouldn't it be great if I had brought with me today magic pixie dust and I could spread it all over the room? And then tomorrow, when you go into your office, or tonight when you go home, you are emotionally intelligent. I joke, but quite frankly, I think you guys all know, mastering implies ongoing. And as you seek to master this, it takes time and it takes practice. I am guilty sometimes of using exercise analogies to the point of nausea. Please bear with me because they are so rich in some of the things that we do. But emotional intelligence is very much like muscle. You know, there's this idea that if you work your muscle, if you lift things, your muscle grows. If you don't, muscle atrophy. Not to mention the fact that time has a way of taking it away anyway. But here's the deal, it's the same thing. If you walk out of here today and go, man, that was a wonderful session, I love it, man, I tell you what, Miranda and her team and the Columbus Chamber and that Eric Pennington, but anyway, it was a great session, right? But that's it? Then all this is just an exchange of information. We're just exchanging information. And you're sitting there, you're nodding or you're writing, but it will mean nothing. Because you remember those problems and opportunities that I told you about? They're out there waiting. And they're waiting tomorrow. They're ready the next day. So what we're trying to do here is, as we get these definitions straight, we can kind of go, okay, I get a sense about where we're heading. I think I know what we need to do. And if you will commit to practicing and putting in the work, your work, because all of us come here today at different levels with it, you can move to a place of high emotional intelligence, and then the idea of elevating your voice becomes another part of your dynamic. Because you'll be able to read the room a lot better. You'll be able to read yourself. I know what happens when X goes on. I know what happens when Y goes on, so here's where I'm going to wait. No, I need to schedule a meeting with Christine. I'm not going to say it now. I might be offended, but I need to wait because I have everyone here. That's emotional intelligence in action. But I got to just be straight with you. It just doesn't happen overnight. It requires you to put in work. So, here's this idea, right? It's really about fusion. We want these two to work together. They're partners, right? And I get it. You may have a reference point in your childhood or even in your adult years that says, I don't want to feel that anger. I don't like feeling frustrated, whatever it may be. But as I said to you guys, your emotions are chemicals in your brain that are designed to communicate with you. They're not trying to hurt you. So instead of us running away from certain emotions, maybe the idea is, well, hold on. What am I feeling? Where does that come from? Is now the time for me? No, it isn't. That practice. Because when they work together, it's an awesome sight. And guys, the negative side of this is, and you may work with some of these folks. You have some of those folks who one word said and the eruption, the rolling of the eyes, the sitting back up in the seat and squirming, the shouting, the accusations. Not saying it's always this, but very likely it's someone that has not harnessed that emotion and allowed that executive function to partner up. Is this the right time? Do I really want to say this now? So the value of this is found when there's fusion. In your workbook, there's this idea that we're going to explore about the business case for EQ. Okay? And when I say business case, generally, because on page 4 of your workbook, there's a little area where I'm going to have you guys write a little bit as we go through this slide. So if you'll notice, it says, how could more EQ help me in my life personally and professionally? So, this is an outcome. Increased value. So if I keep it purely at the business side of the equation, would any of the companies you work for want increased value for the company? If you are in that camp, would you please raise your hand? Would you want your company to create that, have that outcome, increased value? Absolutely, I got an absolutely here. I saw your hands raised. Everybody wants that, right? And most of us would say, yeah, Eric, we've been talking about that for the last 3 years, and you know, the economy, and you know, it's tough to find people, and on and on and on, right? And that's legitimate. But maybe we've been asking the wrong questions. Maybe we need to change up the questions that we ask. Because this one may be a duh moment for us, right? We know if we have delighted customers, that's going to lead us to that increased value, right? How do you guys want delighted customers? Oh gosh, easiest thing of the day, right? You want delighted customers. You got any customers that aren't delighted? We still love them too, right? But that's the idea. We know that. What creates delighted customers? An environment that's a vital climate, right? Now you may say, what does that have to do with it? Well, guess what? I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on someone. Alert, alert. I called you Joel, but it's Carl. Carl. So when I call into Schneider Downs, right? And I'm thinking about wanting to see what you guys can offer my company. But the first person I talk to says, Schneider Downs. Oh, I'm wanting to talk to you guys about such a thing. Please hold. How did you feel about that?
As the customer or
As a vital part of Schneider Downs.
I would not like that.
You would not like that.
Yeah.
Right? So we could easily say, we need to fire that person, get them out of here. But wait a minute, maybe we're asking the wrong questions, right? Maybe we should ask, now why would Christine speak that way to a prospective customer? Why is that? No guarantees here, guys, but there's a very strong likelihood that there's some emotions that Christine's processing that she's not processing well. And wouldn't it be great if all the problems and opportunities of life came one at a time, and maybe even you had a say in when they came? Once again, I go back to the magic pixie dust, right? It's like, yes, everything will be great, and one at a time, but it doesn't. Sometimes it just comes at you rapid fire, right? And those emotions are coming. They follow them. So maybe Christine has not learned the art of, before I answer this call, I am upset that my son said that to me, but okay, not now. Hi, this is Schneider Downs. My name is Miranda. Hi, how are you today? How can I help you? You may say, but she doesn't, that's not for real, she's acting. No, she's elevating. That's what she's doing. It doesn't matter whether or not she's elevating. And that's what this process again, that's what we're trying to do, that's what we want. I'd love to tell you that that person at Schneider Downs is going to magically do that because they encountered, but again, if we can get to her, right? If we can create a system and a process where she can learn, because emotional intelligence is a learnable skill, we more than likely have the better outcome, right? So how do you create the climate? Do we wake up one day and hire the person who graduated from Harvard and they're now the chief executive officer and then voila, we have it? No. We need high EQ leaders. How do we get high EQ leaders? They gotta go to work. They gotta put in the practice. They gotta show up. Because one thing about leadership, what we have found, it is contagious. It's just a matter of what are they going to catch from you and I. Huh? But there's hope. Because even if you're in here today going, well, I'm not so sure if I maybe I did, I should have, that's okay. Because we're starting anew today. Right? So, in your workbooks, I'd like you to take a few minutes to write down some thoughts. How could more EQ, based on what we've learned so far, how could it impact you? How could it help you in your personal and professional lives? Now you would think that I'm the audiophile king. See, this was the part where I was going to play you some really cool music, you know? And I've got to not box that. So you go ahead and write, and when you hear the music start, you'll know that it's just me and my wonderful audiophileness, okay? We're going to do a little cocktail party. So go to someone that you maybe have not met yet and talk a little bit about what came out for you. And Sarah is starting to come around with the microphone. I think we have time before if somebody wants to give an insight, whether it came from your conversation or whether it is something that you wrote down. Anyone like to share maybe with the group as a whole something that leaped out for you?
Do you want me to share?
Miranda?
No, let's just move it.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yes. For Ashley and I, we're actually very similar. Never met before now, but became best friends right there. You know, as leaders coming to a table at times, not everyone is on the same level of communication, right? People communicate very differently. Everyone's EQ is differently. And oftentimes in a fast-paced arena, you know, you're sitting there thinking, okay, just spit it out. And it's written all over our faces, right? So it's just controlling that, how to, you know, pass that, you know, pass through that and live with that. On the opposite side for both of us too, parenting, how do we get through a little better? How do we stay more constant when it's fire on the other side, right? So understanding that, getting that through a little bit better for me personally, not allowing high emotional disturbances really to sabotage my current mood or my progress, right? And that's not just personal and business. When I'm sitting in a room, sometimes people say things that quite frankly, like, really piss me off when they are not exercising emotional intelligence, right? I mean, when people come up to you with accusations or whatnot, I mean, talk about emotions through the ceiling. And so there are times still to this day where I'm fueling on that and it doesn't let me progress forward in that moment because I've got to put water on it and shut it down and hold tight on it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Who else over here?
Don't
I'm sorry.
you think? Like my voice doesn't carry, right? So one of the things that I notice when I hear and I'm talking to everything, don't you think that a little bit of emotional intelligence also has to be in reading body language? I mean, emotionally, you read my body language or you heard me, but you also read me when you said Trump. Yeah. I go like this. You know, when we talk and you see things, the animation that Miranda has, yeah! You know, you get excited and psyched when you see her because you know that there's going to be positive going there. When you describe what the customer service person is, where was that really started? Was that started because the person that came in the morning went, hello? Hello, did you have a good day? No. And they go on to their office, leaving something bad with them. So I always look at body language as well because it tells us a lot. And it tells us a lot of where we want to go in our conversation. And if you really sit with someone one-on-one, you'll notice that they start to mirror you. So if you lower your voice, they'll lower your voice. If you raise your voice, I noticed that with my husband. Anything on me, but you know, when I get a little excited, so does he, and then he elevates, and then I'll elevate because it's like I want you to hear me more than you. So it happens at the office. So you have to make sure that what you're mirroring. So is it positive or negative?
That's
so
a very
I think
good
a lot
observation.
about body language and mirroring
Yeah.
is important in the emotional intelligence.
And I would tell you, everyone, and that's a great point to this, the idea in the work that we do is helping people first to get the self-mastery, understand my body language, how am I showing up, what am I doing with my emotions, what's my work. Yes, as you grow in your own, then you'll begin to notice, oh, she's like squirming in her seat. Hey, I just wanted to ask, are you okay? You can do that. I just want to stress to you, if you try to master it in yourself and others at the same time, that's probably a really good way to have a collision, right? So be kind to yourself, work on your thing, do the work that you've been given to do, and as you grow, you will begin, yes, because it's that powerful, and you're right, body language is that. So, hopefully that gave you some things, again, that you can think about. Maybe not every note that you take is going to be executed in a plan when you get home or when you get back to the office. Maybe it's just one thing. Maybe it's two things. But I highly, highly recommend that you don't, again, let this just be an exchange in information. Because it could be you're being prompted by your emotions even now to pay attention to something. That's the goal. All right, so let's take a look. This is the part of the workshop where it's the work because we're moving and we're talking and all that. So we're going to go to another video. And if you'll notice on your table, there are some colored sticks. There was a strategy around that, ladies and gentlemen, folks. So if you could grab one of those, make it your own. But make sure you get it back before the end of the day, because we have to use them again. But pick a color, whichever you like, right? We're trying to get this even. We're going to look at a video from a pretty prestigious neuroscientist. I do not remember what university, somewhere in California. And she's pretty brilliant. And it's basically, we're going to talk about some things around emotional intelligence and neuroscience, right? So as an aside, this particular video is from a few years ago, maybe a couple years ago, not too long ago. But if you are a fan of a gentleman by the name of Andrew Huberman, Huberman Labs, I believe is his podcast, she appears on one of his recent ones and goes kind of in a, hey, this is even more updated. So just as an aside, if you really find what she's talking about powerful. So if you would watch that. Now I'm going to give you a little hint about the significance of your color. And in your workbook on page 4, the What's New in Neuroscience, if you have a red stick, your topic from the video is what's new in neuroscience. If you are blue, what is emotional regulation? Why is it important? If you're green, why do emotions matter? If you're yellow, why do we need to be emotionally aware? That's yellow. And then purple is, do you think the brain can be retrained so people can change? So as you're taking notes, you want to pay attention to your specific topic, right? And then I'll explain what we're going to do after the video. So here we go.
Oftentimes we think of emotions as kind of interfering with our cognition, getting in the way of high-quality, clear-headed thinking. But nothing could be further from the case. In fact, the most nuanced, the most high-level, mature, wise thinking in all domains, even what you would traditionally consider a cold cognitive domain, like deciding whether it's a good idea to sell your house in this real estate market or to hold on to it for another 2 years, decisions that you don't think of as emotional. All of these decisions actually benefit from an emotional component. In fact, they have an integral component of emotion related to a feeling of riskiness, for example, that comes from your past history and experience with similar kinds of decisions. And when you take the emotion out of the decision, what happens is the decision gets worse, not better. And so what we find is that there's a very critical role for relevant, nuanced emotions in high-level thinking. Being a happy and a healthy person is being able to regulate your emotions. And that does not mean simply putting the kibosh on them and trying to stamp them out so that you can make clear-headed decisions. In fact, there are certain patient populations with particular kinds of brain damage who actually have a kind of a dissociation between their emotions, so to speak, the driving aspects of their emotions, and their high-level decision-making, and they end up anything but good decision-makers. These people actually become somewhat psychopathic, and they don't make good decisions in business or other kinds of analytic contexts either, because they don't have a sense of riskiness or a sense of what's relevant. Emotions are critical for human behavior and adaptive functioning because, like I said, they actually are the thing that help to push our behavior in a particular direction. They help us to be able to think in ways that are going to match the circumstances that we're facing. Without emotions, your cognition has no impetus to match itself, to make you fit yourself well into what's going on around you. And in the most basic sense, emotions keep you alive. They're the things that keep you out from in front of moving buses. They're the things that keep you out from off of the edges of steep cliffs. And they're the things that make you fall in love and have families. But they're also the things that steer your everyday thinking and decision making from moment to moment. And without them, it's impossible actually to live. We need to be aware of what's going on around us because that's the only way that we can adequately, in a nuanced and fine-tuned way, adjust our own behavior to what's going on around us and behave appropriately, treat other people appropriately, and act in an advantageous and pro-social way, in a way that promotes healthy relationships in society and in the world. The only way that you can do that is to be constantly evaluating and assessing the situation around you, and part of that is a kind of an emotional awareness. Although I would caution people not to separate emotional awareness from other kinds of awareness as if it's something special. Being emotional is really a piece of cognition. It's about being able to accurately take the perspective of other people, understand why it is that they behave the way they do, predict the kinds of things that they're likely to do next, and use that to adjust your own behavior and your own learning around the social context. Being able to accurately predict and take perspectives of the people around you is very critical because it helps you to know what's about to happen and adjust your own behavior. If you don't do this well, then your life feels out of control because you can't adequately predict what's about to happen, and so things take you by surprise. And that can be very disorienting and even traumatic in the most extreme cases. Emotions are skills like other kinds of cognitive skills. You can learn to read, you can learn math, you can learn...
All right. So, it's terrible for me because my eyesight is so bad, but on each of these easels, there is a color for you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to get up, and those that have a red stick, would you stand? And right there, Sarah, you should see a red written.
Hello.
Sorry, I am your friend. I am.
I got this. So what we took, so blue, just to reiterate, why is emotional regulation important was our topic. So the first one we were talking about that we pulled was being happy and healthy. The second topic, having a sense of reality, so kind of going inward and feeling those emotions to kind of really feel everything that's happening around you, and then tying into that one, really use your emotions. Don't suppress them. Let them come out. So that's kind of what we took as a group from it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand, please. All right, and then Sarah will come over to group, I'm just going to say group 2, because I get the color thing just throws me off. Green. Okay, thank you. Green.
Yes, I was prompted because I wrote, so I get to speak too. Thank you. So our two keys, I guess, were you can't live without emotions, and your emotions do help you steer and adapt to your everyday thinking. And then the main takeaway overall was a skill you have is you have to exercise it. So it's you can't just like have it, you have to practice it.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, only because I'm so close, this is yellow. Most person for yellow.
All right, so we had yellow, which was why do we need to be emotionally aware? So our first point was that it allows us to adjust our reactions to situations, which is critical for being successful when interacting with other people. The next one we had was that your decisions actually get worse when you take emotions out of them. You know, you often hear like, don't be emotional, don't, you know, let your emotions get the best of you, which is true, but you have to be somewhat aware of emotions, your own emotions and other people's, or decision-making starts to fall off. And then lastly, our overall takeaway was we were all really interested in just like the true psychological like survival. We wrote empathy or death, which is the most concise way we could put it, but I think just like being aware and how it actually impacts your survival and your mental state on top of just being successful professionally and personally.
That's great, and before we go to break, and it'll be very quick, I want to touch on that for a moment to kind of illuminate for you guys. But Sarah, over to red, spokesperson for red. Yeah, thank you.
We are the red group. Our question was, what's new in neuroscience? And so the first two topics we have that emotions keep you alive. So you need those to survive. And then emotions and decision-making is important. Those help you make good decisions or bad decisions based on your emotion. And then our overall topic was the domino effect of your feelings and emotions, how what you're feeling can be passed on to other people, so to be mindful of your behavior, your external.
Awesome, thank you. Great. All right, bring us home.
So the purple, so the purple team question was, do you think the brain can be retrained so people can change? And we just kind of talked about sharpening your skills, because you can't really want to change, you need to want to change, and you need to hone in on those skills to be able to fully retrain your brain to the certain changes that you want to make, and then the dedication to keep that up and keep honing in on those skills, and then the willingness to be able to do that and keep that up. So,
awesome, thank you. All right, so before we go to break, I wanted to touch on a little bit from the group that is yellow for all of you. And before the day is out, I'm going to show you a practical exercise that kind of talks a bit about, hopefully illuminates for you the importance of this, what's happening in your brain, and truly from a science perspective. And it's really simple and straightforward. It does require some practice, but I can tell you from experience, whether it's with clients or these workshops, those that have built it into their everyday lives, it makes a difference. So that's to get you excited about what might be coming. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Break time.
What, 10 minutes we said?
Yep, give you 10.
All right.
So hopefully your excitement is still high. More to come. So this is the part that the Chamber gave us at Spirit of EQ the opportunity to tell you about what we do and how we do it and all that good stuff. Some of my business partners might be better at it because I'm kind of I want to do the work, I want to talk, let's do that. But I'm going to do my best to tell you, and if it sounds too much like a commercial, remember I am your friend. Just don't forget that. So Spirit of EQ was founded in 2014 by Jim and Lynette Bay. They were anticipating and hoping to be here today, but something about the cruise thing, they caught a virus. I know that's really shocking. And I came to the company, this was probably late 2018, as a managing partner. And the work that we do is designed to help organizations and individuals take what's happening today and move that into the future to behavior change and breakthrough. You've heard me kind of reemphasize this idea about putting in the work, and you got to practice, you got to build that, and that's what we help them do. So whether it's the individual who may be working with us in a one-on-one situation, or whether it be teams inside of an organization where they're wanting to grow individually and together to move forward. We do not do cookie cutter, we customize, and we're very fluid in the way that we structure our work. Because what might be right for your company may not be right for another person's company, or individual to individual. We always start with data. We use powerful assessment tools to measure where you are at as an individual, or again as a team, because you can't really carve a pathway to growth and breakthrough if you don't know where you are at this point of the journey, right? And in doing that, we position you and your company to succeed. The true return on investment, because this is not one of those things that you're going to pull out a spreadsheet and do a formula and say, we did that emotional intelligence thing, therefore now we are. This is an ongoing thing that is designed to move to behavior change. And trust me, from our clients, large and small, they know that change happens. Now, if you are in that group that says, I want to see some data, we can provide you the data. Absolutely, we can. But I got to tell you, and this is the dangerous yet fantastic opportunity of this work, is that if you have people who are committed to it and are willing to put in the work, you will get results. And I can pull out examples of $40 billion companies that we've worked with that would tell you that. And I can find some very small units and teams and organizations that are very, very small that would be able to tell you the same as well. So if you'd like to work with us after today, you know how to get a hold of me, because here I am. I'd love to talk to you. We got a drawing, do you remember? So this is, one of the drawing pieces is our EQ assessment, and this is one of the tools that we use that I was kind of giving the plug for. So I was anticipating you guys were all going to put it in a hat or something, and I was going to rumble around Columbus. The Columbus Chamber of Commerce, so advanced, so together, we're able to do it by this list of attendees. So I have a winner. I have actually 2 winners, because the Chamber is also giving away some coffee. Which is wonderful. You don't live without coffee. I don't know if you realize that or not. It's kind of like air. All right, so the winner of the assessment is Charlie Tomlin. Charlie, congratulations. So Charlie, basically how this will work, I will get your email and I will send you, or someone from our team will send you a, oh, you've got a card. Love it. And we will contact you with links and how to do the process and scheduling and all of that good stuff. Congratulations. All right, and the winner of the Chamber Coffee Prize, Miranda Beats. Coffee.
Because I need more energy.
Yeah. Love it, love it. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, as we are moving through, I am going to take you to a place where I talked about a little earlier, this idea of this little practice that you're going to do, and I think now is a really good time because it's not going to take very long, but you will be able to take this with you. You know, the group that was in yellow, it talked about, you know, this empathy or death thing, right? So, what I did not say at the beginning is, when we are encountering those problems and opportunities and those emotions kick off, right? There's something that happens to you in your brain. Your brain releases all kinds of chemicals, hormones, and peptides as part of the process. Now, certainly, if you are enraged, the intensity of those chemicals, hormones, and peptides is going to be much more intense than if you are just feeling apprehensive. But the key is, because you don't know when they're going to come, right? Because wouldn't it be great if I could know how this afternoon is going to play out in every way, shape, or form, but I can't. You can. So the key is finding a way to build a practice around something that I call the pause. Now, some of you probably have heard about the meditation, the mindfulness, and all those kind of things. And this has some of that element, but it is not woo-woo by any stretch. Any person, regardless of where you're from and what you believe or how you practice that. So here's the deal. It goes something like this. When I feel an emotion, regardless of what it is, I need to be able to find something that will calm me for about 6 seconds. All of us will be different in this regard. For Miranda, it may be 5. For Law, it may be 7. For me, it may be 3. You'll have to figure that out on your own. But you need to find that. And in this pause, some people will count the number of the 7 dwarfs and their names backwards. Actually, one of my business partners, that's what she does. For me, I pray. That's my go-to. You may find a different approach, right? But within that 6, 7 seconds, whatever it may be, I have to find something that will calm me. Why am I doing that? Am I doing it because I want to be great at meditation? I want to be a mindfulness guy? No. Because you remember those chemicals, hormones, and peptides? They begin to do this. They subside. Which then allows you and I to call upon that prefrontal part of your brain, the executive function, to kick in. Let me give you an example. Since I'm looking at you, Miranda, you're it. So, Miranda and I are in a business meeting. Miranda makes a comment that offends me. Anger. Miranda, could Could you say that again? Because I don't want to misunderstand what you were trying to say, because it sounds like you were telling me that this means this. Now, hopefully, Miranda says, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. Oh my gosh, I can see how you might interpret it that way. I'm sorry, Eric. No problem. Good decision on my part. Okay, notice I took a little pause. Now, for you guys, it might have been faster in the pause, slower, whatever. But what if, when she said the thing that offended me, I go, tip. And then Miranda goes, what did you say? You heard me. Okay, guys, here's the spiral. Knock, knock. You ever seen this? Anybody in my tribe? Anybody seen this? And the spiral starts. And the thing that I feel in that moment is, I had a right to say that to Miranda. But what I didn't think about was, Eric, you had one problem, now you got 4. And wouldn't it be awesome, Miranda, if this is the only thing we got to deal with today? It's the only thing! It's the only thing! And once we get this 4 problems worked out, everything's going to be great, we're going to get along. But you guys know, knocking on the door the next hour is your boss comes in and says, did you get the report? Oh my gosh, I got the report. I go into another, I meet with a client, they say, well, we decided we're not going to move forward. I got to tell them. Boom, 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 boom. Now, you may think, oh my gosh, Eric, what am I going to do? What you're going to do is you're going to practice. When we don't see each other again, hopefully I will see you again. We'll work together. This is wonderful. But if you never see me again, get up tomorrow and work on this again. It's the pause. Motion comes, I give myself a pause. I got to calm myself. 1, 2, 3. And then, what's the executive decision tell me? Screaming is not going to work. Miranda, could we schedule a time? I just have a question for you, maybe after the meeting. Better decision. Better decision. There you go, guys. That's called the pause. All right. So, gotta keep moving because time is not on my side. So, this is an iceberg. If you go to your workbook on page 5, what I'd like you to do is to read that first paragraph, and I'll read it out loud. I want you to think of a situation with other people, such as your work team, where you were not using emotional intelligence and it didn't work out as you wanted. Okay? Maybe my little role play with Miranda is prompting you a bit. Now I'm going to explain the iceberg here in a second, but that's kind of the key, because what I'm going to move you to is some reflection time on that kind of situation. So go back in time, be it recent or longer, right? And a situation with other people, such as your work team, where you were not using enough emotional intelligence and it didn't work out as you wanted. So frame that for a second in your mind, okay? Now the iceberg. As you probably realize in nature, what is visible in the iceberg is only about 1/10 of the total iceberg. And so it is with us. What lies beneath the surface is what's driving behavior. And if you're a leader here today, which all of you, I believe, have influence, so guess what? You're a leader. You would do well to pay attention to this. Because what's beneath the surface is driving the behavior along with those emotions. And it's happening, whether you want to believe it or not. And so it is for us. What's beneath the surface is what's driving. So, as we grow in our emotional intelligence, we begin to start to have the courage to go beneath the surface to uncover what are some of the things that are at. You do not have to be a rock star. You do not have to have the highest IQ. You don't have to have a title a mile long. What you have to do is be willing to go there and to do the work. That is the key. So once again, when you think about that example, the situation I asked you to consider on page 5 there, the first paragraph, think about that as you reflect. When you didn't use the emotional intelligence at the level that you needed to, what was behind that? Is it a person? Is it a place in time? was when someone said that you're not. Be going there. Because the more that we're able to go beneath the surface, guess what? The stuff that our team members, our family sees will be better, which creates that climate, creates that impact that we all desire. So the audio file of me says, hey, you need some really cool music, mood and all, and I'm gonna try it and see what happens. But I'm gonna give you guys about 3 to 5 minutes to kind of reflect a bit on what it is in that situation. The questions in the reflection part are there as a guide for you, okay? So example on page 5 again, what were you seeing above the water? Make notes about people's behaviors. What do you remember? The words, the tone, the voice, including your own. That's to prompt you. So with that, please go ahead. I'll be around if you got questions. I'd like you to consider, and I believe at this table, there was a little bit of dialogue about body language, okay? And I want to stress to you that this diagram of the iceberg is all about first you. I want to stress to you, mastering this thing called emotional intelligence is an inside job first. Because if you go out and try to do this with other people, it could be dangerous, right? And one of those areas where it can be dangerous is in our assumptions about what might be beneath the surface. Because you might encounter someone who has no desire to give you even a peek beneath the surface. And you can't say, but Eric said that I'm mastering emotional intelligence, so you better tell me what you're getting. No, don't do that. Please, please, please. Right? But inside work first. What's beneath your surface? What are driving your decisions? Practically speaking, I mean, have you made an inventory? What are the things that typically are driving you? I was one of those people in my corporate career, but I paid for all of my sins and then they let me go, so I'm all good now, right? I was driven by my anger for my dad and how he treated me as a kid. And I thought the more successful I became, the more it was like, there, see? And if you had known me back then, and if you would have pulled me aside and if I felt it was safe, and you said, why are you so driven? I might have said, that's something to do with the child. Maybe we got to know each other better, there was more trust built, I might have said, actually I'm trying to outrun my dad and show him. That's the stuff that's beneath the surface, guys. With the people you work with, the people, your family, and all the above. Yes?
So don't you think that sometimes that's a really difficult, okay, I find that this is, and I'm sorry for generalizing, but I find that women tend to think about all these things a lot more. And I'm going to go back to the 1960s for me, and all the cosmopolitan magazines and the, all the surveys and tests we used to take, and I can remember my husband laughing at this, like, really, another one, and yet for him, it's a cycle of things because he'd rather push it back in his mind, which I find men commonly do. I'm going to go forward and not try to figure that out yet. Only life hits you in the rear end, and then it finally comes out. So what you were saying, how long in your life, though, did that take for you to figure it out that it was your dad that you were trying to run from? So, you know, when we're sitting here, people goes, oh, my parents, I had great parents, no, I had this. You don't figure that out right away, yeah, that's what it was.
No, you don't. And for me, it was probably about 25 years, 20 years. It was 3 years before he died. That was the mark. Right? But here's the thing. Whether you be male, whether you be female, whatever describes you. There's another key part of this dynamic. Emotional intelligence will not solve everything. There are times when the help of a clinician is vitally important. I am in that camp, the belief that that is a tool that must be used. Because guys, hopefully at this point you're seeing, I'm not talking about this feely, touchy, and well, yes, women are much more in touch with their emotions, and men, oh, you guys are a lost cause. It does not work on truth. This is for everyone. It's for everyone. It's for everyone that you work with. It's for your family. We in America, in my opinion, have put more value on things like titles and material things. Who do you know? Where are you from? And how much did you make? And then the leftovers come to you. What's ever left over, that's crazy. And I think we're paying for that right now, quite honestly. We're paying a big price. All right, so who would like to share? Thank you for that. Who would like to share something that came out of your discussion or your reflection? And if you want to talk about unicorns and puppies and ponies, I'm okay with that too. That'd be kind of a great lift from all the heavy, right? So anybody want to share for the group?
No, but
Okay.
I'd like to give a scenario that I've heard through the group, that maybe we can get a group answer.
Okay.
And the situation would be, I'm in a position and I need a report done, and I can't move forward in my position until I get that report. And asking, so I end up doing it myself. In doing it myself, the person then who should have done it claims it as their own, and then I am frustrated because, wait a minute, I did all that work. So now I go to my boss because there's some confrontation between the two of us, and I now need to, I look like I'm the complainer. On behalf of my boss, though, she finds out that there's other departments that have an issue with this person. But now I'm kind of the bad person. So I have thoughts on that to give them advice, but I think I'd love to hear what other people think and what you think on emotional intelligence, where they should go with this.
So, Sarah will be around if you want to throw in some thoughts. We have somebody over here. Thank you, Sarah.
So we were kind of talking about this in our group of, you know, a certain kind of negative situation happening and talking about we have to take the emotion out of it, but Jill brought up a good point of saying you don't actually have to take emotion out of it, it's figuring out which emotion to actually engage. So I think when we all talk about like taking away the emotion, we only think of those negative emotions, the anger, the sadness, the frustration. We have plenty of other emotions that we can actually utilize. So when we say take out emotion, don't actually do that. Hone in on the different emotions that you can do to then change the situation and how you react to it. So from what I'm saying, from that perspective, take that anger out of, you know, someone not completing a report on time or whatever, maybe then present with some patience instead. So kind of figuring out that balance rather than completely just being numb to whatever's happening.
That's wonderful. And once again, guys, the gift is a pause. You'll need that pause to be able to go, it's time to pivot, time to go. Anger, I get it, I feel you, but no, I'm going to move to optimism. I'm going to, boom, right? Another powerful thing that you can do on top of, right, is learning the power of the open-ended question. How? What? Why? Or things like, tell me more, help me understand. We sometimes, especially when we're not managing those emotions well, we are so desperate to
Let me tell you how I feel about that. Let me tell you what this is, and you, and then, and 5 weeks ago. But again, if we can practice that pothole, give it some time, slow it down, help me understand a lot. Give me more, I need to understand. Calmness, right? That was great, thank you for that. Anyone else? Right here, Sarah.
I was just reflecting on how I think she made a comment about people's, behavior and being aware of, reactions. I find that when you first interact with someone, how do they appear to you? Okay, are they like walking away from you or walking up to you with a hand out? It's that first initial impression that you get when a person approaches you. That if you can usually tell from the body language, whether they might be in the mood, shuffling their feet or, slamming doors or whatever. And from there, I take that as a sign for me to determine on how do I respond to that person. So once, I see your first initial is, body, behavior, how they respond, how they come out, are they smiling, are they grumbling, and then I reflect on that. So I don't know, it doesn't work for everybody all the time, but, I do find that it helps me in communicating, instead of letting it become a factor to upset me, I can respond in a more positive way to them because I see, oh, well, she's in a bad mood. So let me start off singing a song. And, maybe that changes their mood. Okay, so
That's beautiful.
my opinion.
That is beautiful. And guys, if you haven't noticed, this is the healthiest form of selfishness. I mean, it really is. Because yes, it will improve your results. Yes, your performance will go up. But we're going to be healthier. Because do we really want all the baggage or the weight of every argument? And no, we're designed to carry that. So thank you for that. All right, I'm going to keep moving. Next up, we're going to take a look at the model that we use in our work most often. On page 7 in your workbook, there's going to be a little worksheet I'm going to have you do, but I want to explain to you what this is all about. So in our model of emotional intelligence, we have this thing called, we shorten it KCG, but it means know, choose, and give. So the idea is that we take you through this process of knowing yourself, and then choosing yourself, and then giving yourself. And in each side of each of these particular life pursuits, the know, choose, and give, are competencies. You might call them tools. And they're designed to help you in a very, very effective, powerful way. And oftentimes, this deeper work gets lost in the mix of our everyday lives, whether it be work or family or what have you. But I would tell you, as you are working toward mastering, these are the kind of things that will help accelerate you toward this better performance, better outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. This is what it looks like in action. The know yourself is really about what am I feeling? What's going on inside of me? You guys have given examples, great examples, right? So what was going on inside of you? And that's a question that we should consistently ask, right? The choose is, what options do I have? It always amazes me when we work with folks, especially in the beginning, there's a lot of this dualistic thinking. And dualistic thinking, basically, guys, is it's either this or it's that. It's black or it's white, it's good or it's bad, it's right or it's wrong. And I don't want to rob anyone of the right to say that there are certain things that are black and white. But I think you might agree with me, we far too often, we go to this place, begins with a J. Ooh, what could it be? Judgment. And it's fascinating to me with judgment
that typically people who do that, they've got about this much information. This is about that. Yeah, they'll tell you for a fact, oh, that's just how it is. That's the way it goes. But I'd ask you a question. If I said to you, I have a business opportunity and I want you to start a business with me, and you guys say, well, Eric's such a nice guy and he's articulate and yeah, I want to get in, Eric. Okay, I'm in. And I go, I don't have a business plan. I don't have any tools. But it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. How many of you stick with me and want to stay in business with me? Anybody? I have a taker or two? No? Why is that? You don't have enough data to make a decision. But when I look at you, and I look at you, and I look at you, oh, I know who you are, I know where you're from, I know what your people have done, and I know how you operate. So, okay, I'm all good. Now let's keep moving, everyone. We do it all the time. We have more options. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Tell me about where you grew up. What was it like going to school? Did you go to OSU? Did you relocate here? How do you like being in logistics? I'm finding things out, I'm discovering, versus saying, yeah, all right, okay, I'm good. And I'm making a levity, but it's killing us, guys. It's killing us. It's a slow, slow death, but it's killing us. I want to know. I want to know more. Tell me more. And it's okay if I don't agree with you. It's okay if I come from this angle and you come from that, but I want to gain more information. Those are options. What do I really want? You would think that that is like the eternal question, right? What do I really want? That's to give yourself peace. You answer that question, you'll probably be able to navigate a whole lot better. All right, so I mentioned those tools, those competencies. Because of the room and the lighting and all that other good stuff, this may not be super clear, so I'm going to run through these really, really quickly. So in the know yourself, again, the inside work, what am I feeling? We have two competencies. One is emotional literacy, which basically means you are able to understand and have knowledge of simple and complex emotions. The more literate you are with your emotions, the more you know what they mean, the better off you're going to be at managing it. Recognizing patterns. I kind of use this one. Here's the sports analogy. Okay, why do teams watch game film? Right? Okay, I want to hear it. Anybody have an idea? Why do we watch game film? Over here in the corner. Oh, say it again with a mic. Why do we watch game film?
To get better and improve yourself.
There you go. Now, here's the thing. It's one thing to watch the game film of others. We need to watch our own game film. We need to know, what do I typically do when my boss says, I need to speak to you immediately? What do I typically do when a customer calls and says, well, you were supposed to, all of those things. Because again, that self-knowledge will fuel you to choose yourself. Consequential thinking, weighing the cost and benefits of what I'm deciding to do. Very, very important. This does not have anything to do with intelligence. It has your ability to stop for like 5 or 6 seconds and go, okay, if I scream or if I ask politely, right? Cost and benefit. Navigate emotions. One of the tougher ones, but a really good one. Your ability to make emotions a strategic resource for you. And this comes in time. Again, this one's a little bit more work, but when we can get to the place of where I feel angry. Yeah, that's right, I am absolutely pissed. But you know what, I'm smart enough to know that Miranda's my boss, and if I just scream, that's going to cost me. So what, I'm going to put that aside for a minute, and I'll wait. That's navigating, versus scream, roll the eyes, all those things. Intrinsic motivation. Basically the opposite of extrinsic. Intrinsic means you don't have to be told by outside forces what you need to do, how you need to do it. You're motivated to get going on it. You're going to need that intrinsic motivation, guys, if you never see me again. You're going to need to be able to say, okay, you know what, I'm pulling out my workbook again. Okay, I'm going to look up that podcast again, because I'm going to do this. And you know what, my boss may not even notice, but I'm going to do it. Optimism. Anybody like optimism? Okay?
Did you know that optimism is not ignoring reality? Actually, some of the most optimistic people that can identify that we got a big problem, but they're able to pivot and go, but you know what, if we did these 3 things, I bet you anything, it'll cut the cost, cut the time. That's optimism. It's not just going around and being cheery and smiling and laughing and all of that. It's really about the blend, that fusion, right? Yeah, it's a tough situation. Here are my ideas on how to make it better. Okay? Choose yourself. Increase empathy. This was my favorite. You want to be more empathetic? Learn how to listen better. Right? Listen to somebody's story and believe them. Stealing, thank you, Brene Brown, wherever you may be. That's vitally important. That's where empathy lies. You want to grow empathy? Then listen to my story and believe me. And you know what? You may not like what I believe. You may not agree with how I see the world. But will you believe me? And you say, well, what difference does it make? Do we have to just get along? No, here's what happens, guys. When you build your listening skills, you are growing trust. It's like taking a garden and pouring fertilizer. Trust. And you know what? If I trust you, I'll be willing to follow you. If I trust you, I'll be vulnerable with you. If I trust you, I might let you see what's beneath the surface with me, because I know you won't judge me. Do you want that in your organizations? All together now, say yes. Yes. I love it. The world's changing right beneath our feet. It's so awesome. All right, so there's this activity. Back, sorry, I went too far. On page 7, there's a worksheet. If you look at the top paragraph there, it's going to give you kind of a way of getting a feel for this in action, right? So, think of a situation where you want to apply your EQ. Then answer these questions below. On the second page, which you can do later, we're not going to have you do all through the second page, but just for now, excuse me, answer those questions as it relates to a situation where you want to apply your EQ. This could be professional, this could be personal, it's whatever you want to do. And just kind of work through those questions, right? Again, there's no test or quiz. I'm not going to come and look and see what you wrote, but I'd like you to give it a little bit of time. And this will be an opportunity for you to reflect accordingly. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this, maybe 3, and then we'll come back. Time, and there never is enough time. We can keep going and going and going, but I really want to make sure that I give you guys an opportunity for some question time, right? Because you've gotten a lot of information today. This exercise that you did, continued on the next page, is a way where you can expand that a bit if you want to go deeper with it, okay? And here's a couple of things before we get to the last slide, and then I do want to go into questions. Your workbook from here on out is something that you can complete on your own, right? So it won't leave you a gap there. But something was mentioned in the time we were working on the worksheet. There's a couple of things, and I'm going to get at the table here. I'm sorry, I forget your name. Karen. From an HR perspective, just as a sort of reminder, I have a great confidence that you guys know about how far to go, where to go, when to go, when it relates to things of a personal nature. My key is if I am not sure it's safe, that's probably a sign that I need to get some input as to whether or not it is. So from an HR perspective, would you please just kind of allude to it?
So it's very nice to get to know your staff, and it's a nice thing. It's very nice to get to know your staff, your peers, people that you work with, in all levels. But when to do that is very much on a social basis and not during any confrontation. So if you're trying to overcome a frustration, that is not the time to say, hey, what's your childhood like? All of a sudden it's a defense mechanism and it's an HR issue, and immediately they go to HR and say, what the heck are they doing asking me about my family issues? You don't want to go there. And believe me, it happens a lot because they think that this is a way to get to that personal level. That's not the time. do it when it's just, when you're even new in a new position or new, just start bringing up your stories and then their stories, and then it becomes a very casual thing.
There you go. Thank you for that. All right,
Don't
so
let you get in trouble later.
on, I believe it's page 9, maybe? There's this thing called the Wheel of Life. Again, I'm going to be somewhat abbreviated because, again, I want to give you an opportunity for some questions about what we've talked about today, what we've discussed. But in this Wheel of Life, it's a way for you to kind of use this process to look at these various areas and sectors of life. Friends and family, health, money, career, all of that. And if you'll notice, there's an example for you, and you can read down toward the bottom of that page. Basically, what I'd like you to do is to mark where you feel like you are at currently in those particular areas. So for example, for personal growth, right? You can see 0 to 10, right? 10 being great, 0 not so much, you know the drill there. And kind of draw a line as to where you think you might be with that. You can do this without judgment and with empathy. You're not going to share it with me. I'm not going to ask to take a look at it. It's a way for you to kind of evaluate. And hopefully what will happen is that you'll begin to see, well, you know what? Those competencies, I can probably use empathy to improve X, Y, or Z. So begin to do that now. Just to kind of get yourself into a flow. And then I'm going to close out and let you guys have some question time. And we'll bring on Don, and we'll be concluding for the morning session. Sarah has a microphone, and we will talk, we will discuss.
Great work, Eric. I appreciate this. Or I hear you. I love hearing it. But when I think about you talking about doing the internal work, but then you encounter someone you're working with, and they're just like, I don't want to do this woo-woo stuff. I'm sick of all this emotional talk. I don't want to have a conversation with you. Like, how do you adjust and work through that relationship? I know you have to work on yourself, but then how do you continue to move forward and progress when you're just getting a brick wall?
Brick wall. Yeah, great question. So once again, I'm going to, what am I feeling when I hear that from this person? Okay, I might be frustrated, right? I might be angry. I might be curious, right? Give myself time to know, what do I need to do next? Okay, if law is kind of giving me, I don't want to go there, I'm sick of hearing all this stuff, then I got to imagine that there might be something behind laws discussed with this. If I have enough of a relationship, I may ask law. So tell me more about that. What is it about this stuff that you don't like? How do you feel? How do you think it could be better? What would you do differently? Because I want to try to understand versus typical law. And then I go, whatever law, and then I move on to my next thing. When in reality, if I'm curious, and I can do it in a way that is safe, law might tell me, this is just like the flavor of the month. It's like every 6 months the company says, oh, now we're diversity and equity. Oh, now we're into, and now, and they never do anything with it. Oh, that's data that now I understand a lot. I get you, I feel that. But if I react to my emotion, I'll probably write her off. So I think it's that practice thing. And this is the power of embracing curiosity. And it's so easy to just blow right past it. It's so easy. But if we will take the time to be curious, we may find out that there's a lot there that can help us understand. That's probably right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? What questions?
When it comes to picking your battles, because that's basically what it boils down to, especially when it comes to communication, is picking the battles and knowing how to approach each one of them. Would you say it's easier to pick the battles or even go into those battles when it doesn't have any personal nature to it. Because once it becomes a personal nature, you respond differently than if it's something that you have no true feelings towards. It's easy to go, okay, I can be whimsical. Okay, I can be more understanding. But once you have personal stake in it or something that really matters to you, it becomes a little bit more harder to navigate.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the session that we did yesterday with a group who had an employee that recently passed away. And she was from the trans community. And one of the things that she said before, and she didn't know she had cancer, so she didn't know that it was as bad. But she said that, I'm so thankful about this company because it's the first place I felt like I was accepted. And one of the employees said, you know, what's so sad about that is that she didn't have time. And they said, it also makes me angry because this is how the world should be all the time. Everybody should be accepted. And I said to them, you know, you have a great point about what the world should be, but the world is not. Could it be that because you've now discovered the value of being accepted, it means you're going to be liked? You're going to be that company that says, you can come here and you'll be accepted. Right? The picking of the battles is rooted around that idea about reframing, right? Okay, where am I at with this? Why does that make me feel this way? What's behind what I'm feeling, right? Because I bring up that story, guys, because this idea that it just happens naturally. No, it doesn't. The people who have high emotional intelligence, if I were a Vegas type of person, I would tell you, they've been doing the work. They've been putting in the work. The great part about it for you guys and for me, continuing journey, is that it's learnable. We all have it in common. Okay? Some of us, it may be harder, I get it. There are learning disabilities, there's all kinds of things that impact it, but ultimately, it's learnable. So as we get better with that, we're able to reframe this idea of, is it personal, is it professional, are you saying that because you're trying to say something to hurt me, or you can now see it as, no, wait a minute, I'm in charge of my emotions. I have control over how I react. And I think my good friend over here in HR would say, if I feel like it's going to a place that I don't feel comfortable, I can always say, this is the point where I'm going to have to end the conversation. And if you can do it with a smile on your face, I think that's awesome. Half smile is okay. If you got to frown, but you can cut it short. And again, that's where that emotional intelligence goes into action. Thank you for that. All right, anybody else? Any other questions?
Eric, I'm going to ask you a quick one before we wrap up
It's like the voice of God.
How do you handle that difficult conversation where you have to explain, we have to work with people we don't like sometimes, and it's just part of life. So you're going to have to, put your personal feelings aside, and even though you don't like the person, you've got to get along, and you've got to work together in order to make things go.
That's a great question. Don, I'll go back to this idea about what am I feeling when we have this conversation about somebody I don't like. What's the feeling? And I know, guys, it's easy to jump to, well, what does it matter if you're angry? What does it matter if you're, sad? Well, it does matter because it's your brain, and your brain is trying to help you. It's really trying to help you. So once you can get some clues there, I always find the value in getting more data. Again, in a safe way. I want to understand, right? So maybe the person who is like, I don't like working with so-and-so, and they're telling you, no, you got to do something about this because she or he is that. That's, I think, the opportunity to say, well, tell me more about that. Tell me about the things that you don't like. Tell me what do you feel typically when things get tense? Because then they're giving you data to where you can go, oh, that, I didn't realize that was an issue. That makes total sense to me now. Then that gives you the power to say, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get you and this, I think we all should go grab a cup of coffee. And it's no pressure. Fill in the blank, whatever you need to do to lead and influence them to a place of where you do have to accept. I mean, guys, I love Miles Davis. Any Miles Davis fans in the room? Yeah. Okay. I didn't see a ton of hands. Should I be disappointed that the rest of you don't like Miles Davis? Should I be angry at you because you don't like Miles Davis? No, you just don't like Miles Davis. I sometimes think that simplifying it a bit also can help.
Thanks, Eric. Will you join me in thanking Eric Patrick? Fabulous job. Eric, I still like disco, so I am really in an incredible minority there. I'm Don DePero, you're president and CEO of our Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank all of you very much. And just by virtue of you being here, it tells us that you get it. Because if you aren't willing to make the sacrifice to learn more about emotional intelligence, identifying your emotional intelligence, understanding it, you wouldn't be here. Some of the things, just to recap quickly, Eric suggested we start with ourselves. Look inwardly first, and look at your own emotions, and try to take a step back and understand. I had a great boss, a great mentor for 20 years, a man by the name of Ray Shaw, who's not with us anymore, unfortunately, but he was the publisher of the Wall Street Journal and the president and chief operating officer of Dow Jones and Company. He worked on Wall Street for 29 years. Think of the pressure he had. Was the president and chief operating officer of Dow Jones, was the publisher of the Wall Street Journal, and he bought the parent company of what is Business First here, and I worked for him for 20 years, and he practiced that 3 seconds of silence. And if you're on the phone, uh-oh, where did Ray go? Ray, are you still there? It was a palpable 1, 2, 3. And this man was so brilliant, he wasn't processing. He knew exactly what you said. He understood exactly what you said. He probably was thinking, oh my God, how did I hire this idiot? But he was decompressing. And once he decompressed, then he could deal with the issue, the question, or with my idiocy. So, listening. Empathy starts with listening, right? And processing. And again, starting internally. Start with yours. What did I do wrong? How could I have approached that a little bit more better? How could I have de-escalated? How could I have removed the emotion from that? And it's something I'm still learning after 38 years of management. Eric's fabulous. He worked with our team into the pandemic. We actually had to halt our sessions because they had to be in person, which created some stress among all of us, but he was just great for our team at the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank a few people. Thanks for joining us and supporting our Columbus Region Logistics Council, which is fabulous. Thanks to our title partner, the Spirit of EQ.